Hello, 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 hello. Welcome everyone to another time to talk, our fortnightly meetings or encounters or dates to talk about mediumship. Hi Guilherme, how are you doing?
Hi, everyone. I hope you all are very well. It's a pleasure to be here again. Let's have more questions, conversations. Let's try to use that time the best we can.
Yeah. I think our theme today has space for so many questions that I'm expecting people will be very interested and have a lot of questions and doubts because I have a lot of questions and doubts. I try to prepare for this week and I think I end up with more questions in the end than answers. So good luck, Guilherme. Before before we go any further, this is our episode 21 and episode is why don't we have turning tables anymore? Before we dive into this question, let me, as usual, say thank you very much for the three groups that are behind this initiative. Spiritist Society of London, SSL. As you all know, Guilherme and I are both members of SSL. SSL is dedicated to studying Spiritism. We have online studies and face-to-face studies here in London. SSL is a member of BUS, the British Union of Spiritist Societies. BUS works like a federation uniting all Spiritist societies in the UK. And finally, Kardec Radio, which is, to be honest, like a very wide broadcaster. It has a lot of platforms, they have a lot of content. It's been with us, well, not with us, but with everyone for more than 10 years now, bringing just courses, podcasts, books, you name it, they have it in terms of content in all kinds of formats. Go follow them, all of them, on Facebook or YouTube so you can receive the notifications about new content, what's going on, and you can subscribe for your interests. Kardec Radio even has an app. So go to your app store and download Kardec Radio. Episode 21, why don't we have turning tables anymore? Before we jump into this one, I want to split the analysis. I forgot something. Forgot to say hello. Let me see who we have here. Hi. Hello, Sandra. Good evening. So nice to have you with us. Hello, Faye. Good to see you again. People, as usual, throughout our talk, our chat, if you have any questions, comments, cases, please drop your comments in and we'll bring them up here to help our discussions. But going back to our theme, why don't we have turning tables anymore? I want to split that in two moments because, first of all, before we dive into the question, let's just remind ourselves what are turning tables? What does that mean? Where does it come from? Then what's behind turning tables, and then let's try to understand why we don't have the turning tables phenomena performances like we had in the past. Or who is to say we don't have them anymore? I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to bring a video here. It's a video that we've seen a few times, so just bear with me. I'm just going to show the first minute just to have a bit of context in terms of where this term turning tables comes from. So
by 1850, in the United States and Europe, the phenomenon of table turning had become very popular, crowding concert halls with hundreds of spectators who wanted to see such freely flying objects up close. It was also common in private gatherings within family homes. Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, a renowned French educator, initially did not pay attention to such events, Rivai considered them to be possible outcomes of some unconsciously generated physical phenomenon by the participants themselves, thus being irrelevant. But after hearing from a friend who considered himself a serious person that the objects answered questions, he became interested because he saw in this detail something worthy of research.
Right, I'm going to stop here. Guilherme, I want to ask you. So we saw what turntable was back in the 1800s, mid 1800s. But what in the end was behind the turntables? What kind of effects? I mean, we've talked about mediumship and we've studied a lot about that. But how did the turntables work? It's my question.
I don't know.
Oh, great. Let's ask them. Let's ask people in the chat.
No. Initially, Kardec, as we saw in the video, thought there was nothing serious behind that, right? And we had some theories at the time. There was electricity, magnetism, lots of theories at the time. And only after he started to analyze the content of the message received through a table, that he was like, yeah, there's something intelligent behind that phenomena. He could not explain in the beginning, but only after he devoted to search, to identify what was the intelligent cause behind the phenomena, that he started to say, yes, there are a lot of things to ask, a lot of things to evaluate. And he found that must be something intelligent behind that phenomena. Otherwise, how can a table answer one question? So to make the long answer shorter, behind the phenomena, we had the spirits. We had the spirits trying to pass messages by a means available at the time.
Okay. My question from that is how did the spirits made the objects move or rasp or knock or make noise? How?
First, we need to read the Spiritist book and the Medium's book. After we read the book and understand only part of it, because that's what happened when we read for the first time, we start to understand that we need what we call mediums with certain characteristics, that they can donate more fluid, magnetism, fluid, people call energy. I'm not here about the term, I'm just trying to give an idea of the people. So the medium that donate ectoplasm, for example, energy, whatever.
You are hitting the buzzwords I wanted. Good. Okay.
I don't want to, because we'll make more questions. But those mediums, they had to be in their place to allow the phenomenon to happen. So the spirits, they manipulated the fluids of the medium to move an object, table, basket, whatever. But basically, to have that happening, we need two things at least. A medium, not all mediums, but one type of medium, and the spirits.
Perfect. Okay, let me elaborate on that now. I'm going to try to elaborate so you don't have to answer questions the whole hour.
I'm afraid today, huh?
You said a few words that I want to get back to. You said energy or magnetism or ectoplasm, and you said medium, a specific type of medium. If we go back in our episodes, we dedicated a few episodes to different types of phenomena. We talked about people that could hear, people that could see, people that could receive messages by automatic writing. Now we're talking about physical phenomena. So we're introducing another term into our series, which are the physical effects, like the physical effects mediums, which, Guilherme, you correct me if I am wrong, okay? Or if you disagree, which are mediums who generate that ectoplasm or that energy, let's call it to simplify, in a way, which, by the way, everybody generates that, but they generate them in an intensity that can be used and manipulated by spirits to produce physical effects. So as you were saying, like to move objects or to make noises on things and so on. So physical effects medium generate this ectoplasm, this energy, this magnetism in abundance, a lot. But in the end, for you to have the effect, you still need a spirit who would put the intention, the thought to use, to manipulate that energy ectoplasm to create an effect. Right. Is mediumship still a thing? Do we still have mediums nowadays, Guilherme?
We do.
Mediums in general.
We do. We have mediums everywhere.
Okay. We always have had mediums, and we will always have mediums because mediumship is a natural. We also talked about that a lot. It's a natural effect or natural characteristic of us living beings on this planet. Why don't we see those types of effects, experiences, occurrences nowadays anymore? It was a boom, like in the mid 1800s. It was a boom. It was happening a lot. As they were saying, there were like meetings and saloons of people that would gather to watch those things happening. Not only, especially in France, but not only in France, all over Europe, in the US. Where did it all go? Why don't we have that anymore?
We have few possibilities to answer that question. First of all, at that time, remember, no TV, no internet. You have to find a way to attract people's attention. And remember that from the north of France to the south of France, one information would take easily a month to arrive, easily, right? It's even difficult to understand that today, right? Because everything is very quick today. And at that time, they had to find a way to get attention from the right people. If we had someone writing a paper straight away, would that be enough to get attention? Maybe not. Maybe not. So, on the beginning, they had that in the saloons and everything, but after a period of time, they start to have mediums psychographing messages instead of having the tables telling you everything, right? Unfairness to what we said here in the beginning, I saw an experiment 2 years ago, a bit more maybe, I saw a video of a group simulating how the turntable works. And they did. So the possibility is still there. If you do have all the factors you need to make the equation works, still there. Nowadays, we have another thing that we don't talk very much, that we call in French Ouija. That's the table with letters that we can move to make words. I even bought one 10 years ago. When I was living in France, I bought one. And Yeah, it's there. The possibilities to do remains over there. We can use. But why? Why? Because the objective was not to fill a saloon with people with curiosity. That was just to attract the right people in the right time. After, that was not the goal of it. The goal was to pass information, like we know, to pass notions of morale, notions of phenomena, and that definitely would not fill the saloons, because even the people that went to the saloons, they went for a different reason, not what the Spiritism really wants.
I think the way you described it was, I don't remember if you used the word, but there was a purpose. So if you think about that was the moment where the spirits were trying to get our attention, to start a reflection about life after death and so on, and to bring to us knowledge, new knowledge that we were finally in a stage to receive from them as a planet, like as humankind. So there was a purpose, as you said, there was a purpose to call the attention to a specific phenomena. So based on that initial curiosity, to develop an investigation, to ask questions and so on, so establish the context, to receive the content so we could share. So purpose is a good way of in understanding that it serves a purpose. Nowadays, we have more sophisticated ways to communicate with spirits. And more important, we know now that more important than the phenomenon itself is why, is the message, is how to apply, what's the applicability of what we receive from them. So the purpose is not there anymore. There's enough spread in terms of knowledge, teachings, and so on, and explanations, to not need that anymore, because the phenomenon on its own, it's just a performance, just an entertainment, especially a physical phenomenon that doesn't bring content behind. More importantly, would be the ones that bring us content that makes us think and change and reflect and so on. So I think that's a very important point, the purpose of that moment.
We have to remember that in our history, we had several milestones and several icons that came to Earth to get attention. Moses, Jesus, many others after. Different intensity, different level, whatever. But we had different milestones, we had different icons. And all of them had a purpose. Some had a minor purpose, some huge purpose, but they all had something to fulfill, right? Another thing that we need to think is, when was the last time you wrote a letter and sent by mail to someone, Rafael?
Can't even remember.
Yes. Why?
Because nowadays there's no need anymore. Just dropping them a message on my mobile or an email.
Exactly. So in the future, we will not need to send a message via mobile. In the future, when we are able to master some characteristics that we may in the future, we can do everything by telepathy. We can think and you receive the message over there. Who knows? I'm just wondering here, right? But it's a possibility. So then you will not use your mobile anymore. And things will evolve. Things are constantly changing. So I think that will give a nice picture to people to understand.
It's still within the purpose side before we go in the other direction that I want to get. There's also an element of the type of spirits that can more easily entertain physical effects. From my understanding, to manipulate ectoplasm to generate something physical, there's a lot of affinity that the spirit needs to show with matter, with dense matter. So, not saying that higher spirits cannot do it, of course they can, but they often would be better used, with a better use of their time, to associate and commit with a specific phenomena that it's not just for show. It's more of, again, content, to help others, being charitable, and so on. So they're hiring good spirits it was a team, right? Imagine this as a huge project. Bringing all of this knowledge was a huge project. So the higher spirits that were working as a team to bring this knowledge to us, they in the beginning were behind those physical effects, now will be less likely to be involved with the phenomena just for the sake of it, if there are ways where I can receive a message in a more direct or less, you can actually receive a message instead of just an effect. So I think there's also that element of what kind of spirits would be willing to commit with physical effects just for the experimentation without a reason behind.
Let me first make a comparison here. When I was 18 years old, I could lift 50 kilograms easily on the gym. Today, talking more like 10 kilograms eventually, right? In 10 years' time, 20 years' time, possibly I cannot lift anything on the gym anymore. But I will be able to use, I'll be able to use my mind. I'll be able to use the experience I had. Then I'll tell my son, can you lift it up to me? Because he will be more capable to do it because of his characteristics. So when we're talking about certain types of spirits able to do this, it's not because they are more elevated or not elevated. But we have to remember that to interact with the matter, you need to be closer to the matter to be able to interact. And those spirits use something that we call ectoplasm, because without ectoplasm, they could not interact on the matter either. Because to interact in the matter in our stage on Earth, like, they need to have the fluids equivalent to be able to manipulate the matter. On the spiritual world is different. They would not have that problem. But here they would, because they are in the different states of matter, right? I don't like pretty much to throw that word ectoplasm, because people will think we are like a Ghostbusters or something like that. But this is the technical name given by Richer, ectoplasm. He was not the first one to use, but he was the one who make it more useful to the Spiritism. And it is generated inside the cells, more specifically on the mitochondria. There are a team working on that to try to get more information, to try to validate that theory at least. But that's what we know today. So potentially, we all have that. As you rightly said, those mediums with effect, they being, how can I say that? They're being exposed to certain type of preparation, and they can generate more fluids. And this fluid is used to the manipulation by the spirits.
It's good to point out that as well. So the generation of this type of energy, as you said, it's a. Remember when we talk about perispirit? We talk about perispirit a lot as well in the previous episodes, and the generation of ectoplasm is pretty much associated to our metabolism, as you said, Guilherme. Within the cell, there's a generation that everybody generates it. But I asked you a question. So if we go to the other side, which is I asked you a question before, which was, do we still have mediums? Yes, and we answered already one of the questions, which is why we wouldn't see as much physical effects, because there's no need anymore, because the message, the knowledge, the understanding, the intelligent effects, which are more important than the physical effects in this moment. Yes.
The mediums with this particular characteristics, they do exist today.
Yeah, no, but that's exactly what I want to get. Okay, go ahead.
But they use that characteristics with different activities.
Exactly. Good. That's what I want to get. Okay. No, go ahead. So where are the physical effects mediums?
When we talk a lot about people going to the Spiritist Center, asking for healing, passes, whatever you want to call, most of them are mediums donate that fluid, donating that energy. And you can find them over there.
So mediums linked to healing.
Let me just put let me steer the water a little bit.
Okay.
We have mediums physical effects, and we have mediums that we call mediums of cure. People that have, what is that? Basically, is that medium with the effects that have even more characteristics piling up, and they have more to donate. Basically, they are able to transfer more fluids to other people, and that's what the people call that. So they are there. They are out there. And some of them we don't even know they are, but they are there, and they still using the same mechanism to help people.
Healing mediums or curing mediums. I think this throughout history and in a lot of places, there's always a kind of figure. Oh yeah, I know somebody who has some healing powers. So if you go there and you're going through something, you have pain, you have an issue, you can go there, take your child there, and they will be able to, just by touching or whatever, they will heal them and so on. And how, if this characteristic is associated to that generation of energy from a medium perspective, is it the medium that is curing the person, or how does that work then in terms of the connection with the spirit?
We need to be very, very clear about that. When the process of changing someone's status of mind or even physical condition happens, is not down to the medium. It happens from there. The medium sometimes is a facilitator to make it happen. He contributes with the process, but the medium himself is not able to do anything. Likewise, the medium himself will not make the table turn, because the medium will not be able to direct the fluid and manipulate the fluid to make it happen. You need to have something else, or even better, someone else, the spirits, to be able to do it.
So if we think about this energy that the medium generate being something very susceptible to thought and intention that can be manipulated and used by the spirits to heal somebody or cure someone. Why wouldn't a person or the medium himself or herself be able to, with their intuition and not intuition, with their thoughts and so on, be able to operate the same kind of healing? You're in a corner.
If I understood well the questions, to
Why
heal,
would a medium need this spirit to operate a healing?
because he very unlikely will know how to operate everything from the other side. He may have the will, he may have the fluid, but does he know how to operate? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's the difference. That's why we have a different, what we call magnetizers, and we have what we call healers in the Spiritism. What's the difference? The magnetizer use only his fluid. Of course, sometimes when he was donating his fluid by himself, there's a spirit behind also helping to make things to the person, to the target, to the subject. On the healing side, what you do, you also donate your energy, but you know that you are donating, and there is someone with the ability and knowledge to guide and to use the fluid accordingly to what the person needs. So on the end of the day, they're pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's different is that we understand that we don't do anything. What if there's someone doing, is the spirit, and with the higher approval to make it to happen.
Okay. This, I cannot keep myself from going back to a few episodes ago when we were talking about the importance of the medium, the preparation of the medium, the study, the commitment to be a better person from a moral perspective. Because why smiling?
Something came to my mind. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Because I think, as you said, and when I read about that and about that interaction, as you said, in the end, it's not that a medium wouldn't be able to do it, but a medium doesn't understand, doesn't know enough, and the medium might lack in terms of vibration, the power, enough power coming from knowledge and progress to put that energy to operate the change that it needs in the physical body of whoever is receiving the healing. So just so we tie some loose ends together. The same. Let's just try together. The same medium, in very simple terms, the same medium that generated energy that was used for physical effects to move a table can now donate that energy to be manipulated by spirits who are more prepared and studied and know how things work in the body, in the mind, in the spirit, and perispirit, to operate healing in a person.
Is a possibility. It is a possibility.
And at least on our current...
But to make it happen, we have to come back to what you said a few minutes ago. We need to have the preparation to do it. It's not just like I want it. You have to be prepared. And then I will tell you why I was laughing.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Rafael, you want to go to a place to receive some kind of healing, and we have two mediums. One that just left the pub after a couple of pints, and one that preserves himself, good thoughts, no alcohol, no cigarettes, no drugs, no anything. Which one you prefer to go?
The one that's not under the influence of anything.
Why?
Well, there will be many reasons, but they will have a better control over their senses. They will have better companions, spiritually speaking, because of the affinities that they have, the interests that they have, at least in the immediate past before that moment of healing. So I think those would be like the main ones.
There's something even more important.
Okay.
When you ingest, let's use alcohol example. We know scientifically that the alcohol remains in your body for more than 24 hours. If I'm coming with a breathalyzer, depending on how much alcohol you had, if I come with a breathalyzer and test you 12 hours after, it's there, still there. If I make a blood exam, if I take a blood sample and take to the lab after 24 hours, it's still there. I know because we do that with the companies we work, right? We do that when people go offshore or people have to do some particular type of work. So will anyone go against that? This is science. So it's there. So you have to remember, when you practice a healing, you are donating your fluids. So when you transfer your fluid, you're transferring the fluid with what you have ingested, with what you are. Part of you is transferred, if I can say like that. So if I had alcohol a day before, for example, I'm giving a little bit of alcohol to the person in front of me. And if I do have a child in front of me, I'm transferring to the child a little bit what I have. So that's why. And then I come to with a question for you. We're going to the Spiritist Center. Now I'm turning the table. See, I'm asking questions to you now. I'm going to the Spirit Center, and then I want to have a healing with that particular person on the corner. And the person that coordinating that thing, no, don't need to be with him, because the healing is exactly the same with everyone. Trust me. And then you have 4 different mediums. One that say bad things all day, complain about everything all day long. I have the second one who ingested alcohol, quite a lot of alcohol. The other one who smokes a lot. And I have one that's really following the instructions, doing everything. Nobody's perfect, but this one is trying. So we have 4 mediums inside the room. Is the healing exactly the same for all of them?
Nope.
But I bet there are a lot of people who may hear what I'm saying here and will be like, shouldn't say that. But this is easy.
I understand what you're saying. I think it's to your point. It's not about if for some reason you smoke or whatever it is that you cannot be a medium, but it will affect, because it's a physical element that comes from your metabolism, and whatever toxin your body is dealing with from a physical perspective will affect the energy that you generate.
Do you know what some people may say? No, it's exactly the same, because the benefactors, they will neutralize everything bad on that particular medium. Really? Yeah. If we're doing that, at least we are giving a lot of work, extra work to the benefactors.
Yeah. I have a question here from Faye, which I'm not sure. I'll let you try first. The question is, how do you establish the difference between a healer and a medium who helps in healing?
First, I need to ask, what kind of help this other medium is doing? You know, because we all have the capacity to donate our fluids, everyone. But how I am donating is different. When we call a healer, is that the medium who has an excessive capacity to donate fluids, but the other mediums also donate fluids. Some maybe more, some maybe less. It depends on what the helper is doing, right? Because we have people we call mediums to be in a place to give support mediums. They're there, they're donating fluids. And sometimes they donate more fluids than those that think they are healers. So it's difficult to say who's doing what. Yeah. But what we have to keep in mind, in my opinion, is that both are donating. And if they are well prepared, the result of what they are doing will be way better than if they don't, than if we have someone that's not following the right guidance. I tried to answer, Faye. Not sure.
I think you did. They made me think about something else, and a separation also between like healing sessions, like general healing sessions, where we have a lot of mediums that just help with like a generic healing session, and a session for cure, which is a bit more specific for somebody. Healing in the sense of people that need kind of a cleanse of their energy, to be re-energized, or get a balance in their centers of force and so on. Oops, sorry. Centers of force and so on. And a curing session for somebody who is going through a specific physical illness or mental illness or whatever it is that they are going for, a specific treatment, spiritual treatment. And from my understanding, which I must say is a bit limited, when we're talking about all of us generate that energy to a certain level, but what we're trying to separate is people that generate this at a normal level and people to generate that in such abundance, in such a level that can be used to affect physical changes into physical matter. The first group, which is most of us, with the right understanding, study, preparation, can participate in these general healing sessions. So anyone with the right understanding, study, preparation can help in that general healing session, which is more of a cleansiness and harmonization of the energy in your body. That's anyone, or most people.
There is one thing, Rafael, that we need to be very clear. We don't cure anyone, right? When we have a reservoir on the left, another one on the right, if this reservoir here has more fluid, if you put a pipe between both, this one that has more fluid would transfer fluid to the one that's empty. Basically, when we talk about healing, we donate fluids kind of to give a restart, a reset of the person that has some difficulties at the time. But we don't cure the person. Only God and the person himself can find a cure. Mediums are just facilitators or mediators, if you like. But the cure is with the person himself, not with the. There is no magic power with medium A, B, or C to make it. It may help, but there's a lot of other factors that need to be taken into account to have a change, and with the proper approval from very high they're going to happen either.
I want you to hold that thought, because there's a few cases and examples, and of course I'm going to bring Jesus as an example so we can talk about that. But I think there's also this distinction that I think it can come from this conversation. Like, most people can be involved in like these general healing sessions, but to be a medium that helps with cure, then is a specific type of extensive mediumship, like seeing, hearing, receiving messages, and so on. But Guilherme touched a point which is super important. Face, by the way, says is face thing. Thank you for the image of the reservoir. She says it's great. Which is, when we talk about cure, no one who is receiving that cure or the treatment or whatever it is, the intervention, is just passive. Guilherme was talking about, so there's a lot of items that go around that, and that needs to come together for somebody to be cured from specific illness or situation. And the example I want to bring is the ultimate medium that we have every time, which is Jesus, right? Jesus cured many, many people. But in every single example of them, every single story that we have about that, about those so-called miracles, which now we understand were just probably mediumistic interventions. The faith, and Jesus says that very clearly, it was their faith who cured them. So, yes, of course, there was a lot of energy being generated by Jesus. There was a group of spirits behind him, helping, supporting, and so on. But the faith, the understanding, the believing in that possibility, in that energy, in that so-called power, I'm going to put in brackets, it was key. Without that, no miracle would have been concluded.
I also have another belief on top of that. When Jesus went to Siloam pool, he chose one to be cured. They had quite a lot of people there, but he chose one. Perhaps the other ones could not be cured because lack of faith, lack of possibilities, merits, and a few other things. So we need to think that it's not because I want to be cured that I will be cured. But I saw cases that people that were told by doctors that they could not survive for another 6 months and they're still there. So it's case by case, merit. And we also have to think about a word that's used more and more, karma. Perhaps your karma was true. That's it. You fulfilled what you had to fulfill. So now you can change. But perhaps I still need to learn through pain, through disease, through sufferings, whatever, another few years before something happens. So it's case by case. I would not elaborate a theory that this works like that. What may work for me may not work for you. Vice versa, you know.
I want to get back to a term you used, which is the magnetizers or magnetism. And I want to ask, what are magnetizers?
By the way, Kardec was a magnetizer.
How? What's that?
Yeah. He was studying magnetism during his time as well. let's make, before you go into magnetism type of thing, guys. Here in UK, I'm not sure, but in France I saw, some places I saw as well. Hake.
Yeah.
You can pay to go to a session with a Hake therapist. What is he doing? It's magnetism. It's healing. He's calling Hake, but he's donating his fluid. He's moving energy when he does his manipulation. It's exactly the same as what a magnetizer does. But if you say, I'm going to a magnetizer, people may look to you, well, do you really believe that thing, No, I'm going to have a Hake session. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, it's trendy, But the mechanism is pretty much the same.
Magnetizers then.
Yeah.
So magnetizer is somebody who has the ability to influence or manipulate
Fluids.
energy.
Yes.
Okay.
Not only from human beings, but from animals, minerals, vegetables. And there was a moment in time where science, mainly Sorbonne, they accept that as a science. And then Mesmer was one of them. He started to have people against him because how can I treat someone without drugs? How can I treat someone without a few other things? And then the academy started to ban this thing from the academy. That was Sorbonne at the time.
Marco just mentioned something, not sure I followed, is that the Spiritism philosophy by Kardec about magnetism, but who was open the way for that, it was Mr. Mesmer that opposed Mr. Kardec. I'm not sure.
I don't remember if both they were on Earth incarnated at the same time to start with. I'm not saying he was or wasn't, but I don't think they were, right? And same for the Hahnemann. But one completes another. Spiritism is we used to say, is a cousin for the magnetism. So Marco, give me a little bit more information so we can work with. Help me out here.
So the study of that ability of influencing fluids and how that would impact animals or other people, so that it was called magnetism. It's still called magnetism.
Yeah. We have to remember that we have energy. We have meridians through our physical body where our energy flows through them. With magnetism, he's able to make the fluid circulate better for some areas. Some areas that you're lacking, you will start to receive more fluids. Some areas that you have a surplus that also create diseases, you start to dissipate those surplus into other areas. But to talk about magnetism, we have to read a lot, because it's not just doing by mind. There's directions you need to move your hands. There are things I don't even know myself, right? So there are things you need to do to make it work properly. It's not just like, I want to do it. No, you need to prepare, you need to study, you need to understand how it works. But for example, Mesmer, he did an example with a tin of wood with copper, water, and he put some scissor ropes tied to a tree to collect the energy from the tree, to magnetize the water, and then the water would treat people, right? So there's a lot of ways to do things, but I have to refresh my mind to be able to speak that in more depth. I don't remember from the top of my head.
That's fine. I think for today there was more of I think we kind of got out of the path. But Parker just said opposed because Mr. Mesmer was a materialist, but Kardec took many information of Mr. Mesmer for his studies. But anyways, I want to, because my magnetism, I think it's a different topic, and we are getting towards the end. It's more of a wrap up in terms of where are the turning tables that we don't see as much anymore. And I think in the end, I think that's the main thing, right, to reflect on. Mediums that have the ability to allow for physical effects still exist. But nowadays, the better use of those abilities is put towards other items. For instance, cure, healing, and so on. Purpose. There's less need nowadays. We receive the messages. We understand through the messages how those things work. We have, through ways of receiving the messages, an easier way to receive information, communicate, and so on. So there's less of a need, less of a purpose. Somebody might say, yeah, but nobody knows about Spiritism. There's a whole world to convince about Spiritism, which is an interesting question. But Spiritism, somebody will never be convinced based on just a physical effect. It needs to come from the reflection. It needs to be a rationalization. Of course, your experience will help. It might be what will trigger you to think about something, you search for something. But if somebody is not interested in studying, understanding, reflecting, it won't see a physical effect and be convinced. It's not. That's not the way the spirits would be committed or willing to use their time and using a medium of physical effects who could be curing people to try to convince skepticals that are not really interested in reflecting, investigating, studying. It doesn't sound very humble in the way I put it, but I think it's a fair way of saying it. So that is why we don't see as many turning tables anymore as a thing, because we evolved to make a better use of those resources, let's say.
We don't see turntables a lot, or at least I never saw myself face to face, to be honest. But we still have meetings for materializations, and you need those type of mediums to make it happen, right? So we still have. We don't find on every corner either, but we still have.
Yeah. All right. I think we are up for today. Interesting, but I might have more questions that I want to bring afterwards. And please, people, if you have cases or questions or comments about this, put them in or send us them afterwards in the form so we can bring them in the next episodes. Before we close our usual announcements, I'm just saying we have an open study for the book Austral City or Nosso Lar. It's every 2 weeks as well. So the weeks that we have time to talk, you don't have the Nosso Lar studies. When the weeks you don't have time to talk, you have Nosso Lar studies. So the link is there. The details for the group, if you want to join, you'll be very welcome. We also have on Saturdays study group for the Mediums book. If you'd like to join us, there's people from all over, from different countries. There's a very interactive. Bring your questions. We read passage by passage on the Mediums book and reflect upon it and explain it. Tomorrow we have coffee break with Munir, where he's going to keep talking to us about the book Genesis. And also tomorrow we have our spiritual life covering the intervention of spirits in the corporeal world. That is pretty much it for today. I want to say thank you, everyone, for being with us again, and I will hope to see you in 2 weeks. That's bye for me and Guilherme.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Let's have a good week, and hope to see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.